Welcome back to another episode of the Good Brothers. I'm Alex. That's Mike. We are the Good Brothers, the bestest of brothers. We are the highwaymen from LA to New York City. Say hi to the folks, Mike.
Hi, folks. Mike, good brother. Welcome back. How is the new gig?
It's great, man. It's really good. New gym out of Lockport. Real appreciative of everything they're doing for me and done for me. Excited for a new season. We officially kicked it off yesterday with actual team practices. Trial process is over. Spring training is beginning, and I'm excited, man. It's good stuff. Back in red and black, like my good old college days. So it's really good stuff. But now the schedule's set. We have a lot of movies to talk about and box office to break down, actually.
Absolutely. So congratulations to you and all the success to you coming to you and the kids. And with that, we got a lot of stuff like you mentioned to talk about here on this edition of the Good Brothers, your tag team champions of the world and two parts of your trio entertainment champions. Alex, we got to talk, like you said, reviews. We got some images. We got some predictions. But before we get to all that, let's take care of some housekeeping notes. Make sure you guys like, rate, review, and share us wherever you get your favorite podcast at Mercado Airwaves. Support us at patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves. We have a tier where Alex and I will watch a movie of your choosing and do a commentary track. That is a lot of fun. And if you want to see us really let loose, that is the way to do that. Otherwise, support us for $1. You like us, you don't love us, and that is okay. That's patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves. And of course, at teespring.com/Mercado Airwaves, we have swag. The Good Brother has his own line. Make sure you guys check that out. And if you want to see the video version of the podcast, youtube.com/Mercado Airwaves Network, and on Facebook, facebook.com/Mercado Airwaves. And Good Brother, just to let you know, if any one of our fans is missing episodes, wants to binge them, just like we did on the premiere of the Two Nerds of a Feather podcast, where we put all 4 episodes up in a marathon, we will be doing that for the Good Brothers at the end of every month. If you have missed any episodes, we will be doing a marathon on Twitch, twitch.tv/Mercado Airwaves. With all that, Good Brother, you got to see some movies. I got my full vaccination. You're doing all the health and making sure you're being safe. And you got a chance to get to the theaters. You got a chance to see some awesome movies. We're going to try to stay away from spoilers. A lot of these movies are new. Some of them are on streaming. I haven't gotten a chance to see a few of them that I want to see. So with that, I'm going to tee you up for a couple of them. We'll start off with The Conjuring. The Devil Made Me Do It, the third Conjuring movie in this entire universe. What were your thoughts of the first scary movie of 2021?
So this was the first, I would say, ghostly scary, because we have gotten a few horror. We've gotten a few body horror, and this would be our defending champ right now at the box office. We'll get to number 2, the former box office champ of last week, and then the other former champion 2 times ago. But as for Conjuring, you know, this series I love it. I really enjoy this series. It reminds me of the Exorcist series, which is good and bad. In a good way is 1, 2, and 3 are actually very solid movies. The bad part, though, is I think it dips every movie slightly. So where you have the first Conjuring compared to the first Exorcist, one of the best films in the horror genre, I would say. I would say it's the best horror movie in the last 20 years when it comes to that type of horror, when it comes to that ghostly possession horror. I think it really does go Exorcist, The Conjuring as the top 2, fighting it out as Michael Jordan, LeBron James for that type of genre horror film. But I do think that when we get to 2, it dips a little. And I think 3 sadly does the same, where it's enjoyable. It's fun. It's got plenty of great scares. Julian Hillard, he plays the son in WandaVision. He's the little boy with glasses and haunting of Bill Manor, and he's the little boy in this that gets possessed. He does a great job. He's just the one I want to mention because he's up and coming, I think. We'll be seeing him quite a bit in the next few years as he grows into an even bigger actor. But yeah, I was slightly disappointed. You know, it sucks. You find out throughout the years from Conjuring 1 to now, like, oh, now we know the Warrens were kind of bad people. Necessarily, they were con artists. So that kind of kills kayfabe for us of like, man, these heroes fighting the devils and all the ghosts and stuff. Oh, wait, they were con artists too. Damn. Like after you watch The Greatest Showman, you realize, oh, he was a terrible person. So I'm enjoying this, but I do in the back of my head remember, oh, he tortured animals. Same thing goes here where you're like, yeah, they're heroes. They're almost superheroes at this point when it comes to fighting demons. At the same time, you're like, oh, wait, they were really hardcore con artists and didn't have the greatest marriage. So the stuff we love in this movie, in real life, the kayfabe was killed for me slightly. I know for most people it's not, and that's why I do think it's an enjoyable movie. Right now, it's sitting at a decent score on Rotten Tomatoes for this type of film, 58. It's not great. It's not terrible. But again, it's dipped every film. I think Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga is fantastic. And they almost make you fall in love with this, just like Hugh Jackman did, where you're like, oh, I just want to believe them right now. Even though I know the real people they're portraying weren't as pretty or as cool or interesting, honestly. But overall, I enjoyed it. I think it's on HBO Max, so you're not really having to pay for this one. Go out and watch it. And especially if you're a completionist, it does tie in very well. And I think this universe, for a common horror fan, I think you and me like dive into it sometimes almost too much to a default for us and our enjoyment level. But I think for a common fan, it's almost like The Purge at this point, where it's like, no, they're good. You'll be entertained, but it's definitely dipped from that legendary The Conjuring. Part 2 and 3 definitely take that dip into more. Yeah, they're fine sequels.
It's interesting because you were praising Conjuring 1 so much, and obviously I think this is still James Wan's property, correct? This is his baby. And story by James Wan and produced by James Wan. So these are his babies. And let's go for the joke first. I think people thought the most disrespectful thing was that they got Brad Pitt to play Billy Bean, and they're like, that's crazy. No, what's crazier is getting Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson to play the Ed Ward and Lorraine Warren. So that in itself is disrespectful. But let's talk about the lineage. To me, at my age right now, 31 years old, we've been doing this podcast forever. We've been movie fans. We've been horror fans, because shout out to Mama Mercado for getting us into horror. I love things like Hereditary. Like, to me, that is what The Exorcist in the 2010s, 2020s should be. Conjuring's interesting because you're saying it goes, even though so does Hereditary at some point, that, in the spiritual realm, it's right there. I always had this cynicism towards the Conjuring series and the Insidious series and a lot of these Annabelle series, just because we are so deep in the lore of these urban legends and these true crime tales. So part of me just loses interest. Like, the true story is more interesting. For example, we talk about Ed and Lorraine, the Amityville horror. I find it more interesting to the Fayol family than the actual haunting that, we all hear about, right? So I give a shout out for the fans because they know what you're getting for this movie. If you go to McDonald's or you go to Burger King, you know what you get when you're getting a Big Mac or a Whopper. That's what this is, and that is fine. I don't have to tell you to eat it every day, but I think every once in a while, treat yourself. And if you're looking for jump scares, if you're looking for a quality movie, a scary movie being made, when we're talking about the technical part of it, it's going to give you the jump scares. I think that it's more than okay to watch this movie. And from your recommendation, even if it's not the best, if it's maybe even the worst of the trilogy, the fact is I don't think you're going to be disappointed that you watched 2 hours of it. So I think more than anything, it's a recommended watch.
Yeah. It's hard because when I do my numbers, I try to base it off of genre. So, a movie like Mortal Kombat got a 9 out of 10 because it's a video game movie. I put it in that genre. As a film, it's probably like a 6 or a 7 out of 10. And I try to do that with every film to give you a little perspective. And so, as a film, I wouldn't rate this very high. As a horror film, it's okay. I would give it an 8 or a 7 out of 5 because this series is still handled very well. James Wan is a very good producer and a very good writer. And just because the kayfabe's broken a little doesn't dilute the fact that it's a very well-made film. And I believe some of the body horror in this, when we talk about possessions, I would consider it like Haunting in Connecticut, where like at the time you're like, oh, wow, this is like crazy. I would put it on that level. There's some really haunting scenes in here. And I can't recommend those enough where I'm like, just for that fact, I would watch it because it'll give you the heebie-jeebies for a night.
You want to hear the box office before we get to the rest of your reviews?
Yeah, since, we just talked about the champ and we're going to talk about last week's champ and then the week before that's champ, we might as well get into it.
Absolutely. And number one, like we mentioned, The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It at number one, $24 million. So
real money. Earn real money. We're playing with now that Fast is coming out. Now we're starting to see real numbers and not just a couple 100,000, maybe 2 million from this devil fighter movie that came out of China.
Right, exactly. And at number 2, A Quiet Place Part 2. Alex has a review on that in just a second. At number 3, Cruella, that, and with A Quiet Place 2 making another $19 million, for Cruella making $11 million. At number 4, Spirit Untamed makes $6 million. And at
Anime.
number 5, Raya and the Last Dragons making some money again. Yeah, at $1 million. For all those that are wondering, Spiral at $893,000 at number 7. So
So they're, they made their money. You already know if they made money. Like, don't look at the numbers. Look at the studio announcing things. So you don't have to see that $1 billion, 100 millions, because guess what? Out of those 6 movies we just mentioned, 3 were already greenlight for a sequel. When we have A Quiet Place 3 is going to get greenlighted. Cruella got greenlighted, and another Saw film franchise got greenlighted. So these movies are making money again, and now we're seeing real numbers. We're playing with real money on the table now, and that's kind of fun, especially now that we're going to really get into like the Black Widows, the Fast franchise, who's already making a ton of money overseas.
And speaking of sequels, you mentioned the next 2 reviews that we have. We'll start off with Cruella. We know that it is in Disney Plus is already in talks to bring back Emma Stone, and that they're going to bring in another movie. You brought up a very interesting comp that I think a lot of us saw in the previews, but it seems to be confirmed through the movie. So your non-spoiler reviews for how much spoilers you can have in a Cruella movie of this new Disney property, and what are you thinking moving forward?
I put this on a level of Maleficent, the first one, where like you don't think it's gonna work, and when you see like, oh no, it looks fantastic. The star is fantastic, and I actually do have empathy for this character now. But this movie does something a little extra. It really puts Disney in this very funky, I want to say 90s punk genre that you didn't think Disney can do. So as I don't think sometimes you and me always say, maybe we're not the best people to talk about a movie like this. I think that's two-sided. I think everyone should be able to talk about whatever they want. And if you see the film, review the film, have an opinion. I didn't love the story. I thought it was fine. Like I said, what can we spoil in a Cruella movie? You know where she ends up. But I thought acting-wise, it was fantastic. It looked gorgeous. And I'm excited for a part 2. And I'm more excited that Disney's playing around with these very punk-ass genre of the way they film things, the way they shoot things, and the way we get the dialogue now. So I recommend this film. I think I didn't love it. It's not my favorite film in the world. I probably won't go back for a second viewing anytime soon just because it's not my flavor. It doesn't have any lightsabers in it. So obviously I'm not going to watch it 10 times. But I do think a lot of people, the common audience, this is the film for them. This is a family film. At the same time, it's Disney family. So it doesn't feel like a children's film. It doesn't insult you. So we got to give them credit. It's another home run for them. And it's really interesting. This is the first movie that came out on Disney Plus that I'm like, okay, that's what I want to see out of your films. Show me that kind of stuff. Like now you're starting to like, man, like that company's like, they're smart. They're learning, especially after last year's debacle of Mulan. They're like, oh no, we kind of get what you guys want now. So like, let's give you Cruella. And it's funny, we joked about it because it was supposed to come out last year. When we did our early preview before the pandemic, we're like, oh, this is going to be an interesting movie with Emma Stone. And let's see what it is. To finally see it come out and be successful is very cool, in my opinion, because we didn't think a film like this, after being pushed so far, would really hold any traction. And to see like it's always in the headlines, we're getting great interviews from the people that made this film, and it got greenlight for a second, being a Disney Plus original. So that's really awesome. I highly recommend it. It's sitting at a 74 on Rotten Tomatoes. It's a great score.
So here's spoilers now for Cruella for just the next 30 seconds, and then you guys get to our review of A Quiet Place 2. So for the next 30 seconds, if you don't want to know anything, because I only have one question for the movie right now, 30 seconds. Good brother, in less than 30 seconds, can you answer this question? Are there Dalmatians in Cruella?
Yes, they are in the trailer also.
Oh, are they? I didn't even notice that they're in there are Dalmatians, R101?
There are Dalmatians.
Okay.
What I'll say.
Okay. All right.
They take Karens.
All right. Welcome back, everybody. With that, good brother, passing grade for Cruella. Watch it.
Yes, I would highly recommend it. I think as a common fan, which is our audience, sometimes this one's an easy watch. This is an enjoyable watch. And everyone has Disney Plus. Plus, for our families out there, I coach kids. You work at a studio that's hugely based off a lot of children's stuff too, and like foundations with that. I recommend it.
Hey, okay, I got one last spoiler. Does Hugh Laurie show up?
No.
No Dr. House. I don't want to watch it. Good brother.
Oh.
Let's go into some despair and dismay. John Krasinski's new movie with Emily
Blunt
is the badass in it, and she's a killer, and she put down all the rumors that she's Miss Fantastic, which means she still might be Miss Fantastic. With that, good brother, Quiet Place 2, one of my most anticipated films. This might be the movie that gets me back into the movie theaters. I want to see it in a big screen. I want to hear it in those Dolby amphitheater. Just tell me, how Cillian Murphy, how amazing is he? What is this movie? Is it great? Am I going to be excited about A Quiet Place 2 when I loved A Quiet Place 1?
Yes, I think this film is the highest rated. It's a 91%. It's an add-on. I don't think it's, if we're comparing, it's not as good, but that's a lot to ask out of a revolutionary movie like Quiet Place Part 1 and like a directorial debut of John Krasinski, who he kind of shows us, oh no, I can do this. I would like to see him do something outside the genre now and really test him as a director and be like, okay, I know you can do Quiet Place films and you invented them, so that's cool. But it's kind of like James Wan, where it's like, I do want to see you do something else to really prove to me that like you're a guy and not just you can live in that genre. So that's a good problem to have. I'm not going to spoil much or anything at all. We'll keep it short because this one's coming out on Paramount Plus in the next month, which I think is when you'll see a lot more viewership go up. And we might come back and revisit and talk about why there's going to be a part 3 and why this franchise is really changing the scope of films and how they're made. But highly recommend it. If you like part 1, you'll love this one. I just personally think part 1 won't be, it's like The Conjuring. It's like a lot of part 1s, man. Like not everything's The Godfather 2. It's very hard to top the first one. And I don't think this one does, but it doesn't demean it. And if at worst, it's like right there, like part 1 and part 2 is right there. Maybe ask me in a month after another viewing. I might say, you know what? Never mind. It does.
Well, speaking of topping, make sure you guys stick around for another few minutes because we're going to talk about Loki that's premiering in just a few days. But I want to stay on this Quiet Place 2 train. And we were talking about Marvel. We're talking about DC. Put those out of the way. Okay. John Krasinski, are we talking as a director, somebody that could get somebody else's script and make a Scorsese, a Quentin Tarantino type of movie where we all know a Patty Jenkins, like one of these premier, Catherine Bigelow type of names where they're making a war epic or a cowboy epic or a period piece, beyond Marvel, Star Wars, DC, all the cool stuff. Does Jim have a chance to do this?
I think so. I think this is just a start. I think if I had to put money on it, which you love to gamble on sports, Mike, I would put money. I'm like, yeah, the people you named on that list, he will be on that list. I would consider him right now on the level of Jordan Peele, where it's like, hey, we know you can do these type of movies. And every year we're probably going to see a little bit more. Like Candyman is a little more, is different, I would say, than what we got in his previous two. So Jordan Peele is finally going to get a chance to show I can spread out a little bit and I can give you an old property that wasn't totally hands-on with, and I can make something out of it. I'd love to see the same from John Krasinski, and I know he has a few projects that are very different, and I'm very excited. So if I had to put money on it, yes, I do think in 5 years, let's say, we are talking about him like, man, the guy can't miss, and like he's starting to spread out.
I'm super excited about it. We'll have a deep dive of this, maybe its own episode as soon as I get a chance to watch it. That's A Quiet Place 2. So this is amazing, good brother. We have Conjuring, Cruella, and Quiet Place 2 all within varying degrees and grades. We had Spiral just a few weeks ago. Movies are back, good brother. And I'm more than happy to say that you might win this first bet of theaters dying. I am so ecstatic that real things are back, and I am so excited to go to my first baseball game, my first movie, the first time at a bar like that, where there's just a bunch of people and the energy is great, and we all, jump scare because they pop something in the screen, or when the first Avengers come out. I am so happy. I know you are. I can't wait till we get to see a movie together. It's been almost 18 months, so that is going to be wonderful. So shout out.
We saw in the theater together.
I could tell you the last movie I saw in the theaters was Men in Black 3. Bad Boys 3.
Oh, okay, that was a good one.
Yeah, I saw Bad Boys 3, and that was fun. It was the number one movie of that year, box office wise. So it goes to show you that. Good brother, let's stay with the good news, my man, and that is Loki, one of our favorite characters, one of the breakout stars, Tom Hiddleston, became a household name, and it is getting great reviews coming out this Wednesday. We have seen people drop some social media reviews. People are ecstatic about it. We know Kevin Feige has got the guy behind this to do his Star Wars movie. So he's got confidence in this whole team that's doing this series with Loki. Your thoughts on what we're going to see come Wednesday?
I mean, from what they're talking about, I think this is what we've been waiting for out of Disney Plus from the Marvel side is, you enjoyed WandaVision. I thought every day passed by, I think it's worse and worse. That's fine. We've had those conversations. Go back and listen to them. Winter Soldier, we both liked it a lot. We even loved it at times. I don't think it was the grand slam. Maybe a nice solid triple. Maybe even a home run. I think more Anthony Mackie coming out of it was the home run than the actual series. I would say, I think overall it was great. I think there was parts of it that could have been done better. I think this is what we've been waiting for of connect us to the universe, please. You can't give us 20 billion movies of all this content that connects, and then you give us the shows and they kind of connect. We were getting that in Netflix and you canceled those shows and we like those. So it's almost like we were getting the same concept. This one, I feel like, in the way they're reviewing it, the first 2 episodes, and the way they're talking about it, this is going to mean something. And not like they promised in the last 2 shows, we're like, oh, it kind of means something. You introduced 2 new characters-ish, and we're getting sequels to movies we already knew we were getting. That's what those last 2 shows did. This one, I feel like, no, you need to watch this. You have to watch Loki because it's going to affect all the films going forward. It's going to affect the universe going forward. Compared to the other 2 shows, which was, I felt like you could skip WandaVision and just watch Doctor Strange and be fine. I feel like you could have skipped, beside Anthony Mackie becoming Captain America, probably could have skipped that and waited for part 4. This one feels like, no, it's going to affect our universe.
Yeah, and Brady has his own opinion back there. He's storming the doors because he has, I'm with him. I think WandaVision was a lot of fun. I enjoyed the concept of WandaVision a lot more than necessarily all of its execution. I'm with you. I think what was great about Falcon and Winter Soldier was great. What didn't hit was, I think a lot of the underlining tones was what really sold that show. And like you said, Anthony Mackie going over was kind of like the selling point of it as the time has gone. But now the one unique thing about, you will say, a very unique thing about WandaVision and at least Falcon and Winter Soldier was that they did have their own identity, though. They did have whatever, even if it was surface level or they didn't go deep into it, they did have their own story structure. This is the same thing. We're going to have the time traveling and the detective kind of merge of them too. And I think that also just on its own is a much more entertaining medium or form of storytelling than some of the other ones than like espionage or magic. So just like that, I think it's already has in its own advantage. Plus, we're looking at that cast. I'm so excited. Yes, I mean, come on, dude. Like that in its own is rock and roll. So we'll have our full review. Good brother, we get to have a full review of another MCU TV show. I mean, at the very least, that's exciting, right?
It is. And hopefully it goes better than our debates that we were constantly having over WandaVision. We both seem to enjoy Captain and the Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
So I'm excited, man. But this is the one you and me have been looking forward to. This is the whole, we've called our shot forever of no, this is the one that's going to be the one of these 3. This is going to be hopefully the Mandalorian to the Star Wars universe on Disney Plus. I hope this is prep for Marvel. It's now we're cooking. Now I want to see every show you put out here. Now you're starting to really understand what we're looking for.
Speaking of what we're looking for, good brother, images dropped, pictures dropped, the internet caught on fire. Our boy, Jensen Ackles, aka Soldier Boy, has his costume, his shield. The boys are ready. The compound is ready. Good brother, how hyped are you for this next season of The Boys?
Super hype. I've got my fill of violent superheroes from Invincible, luckily. So I'm good. I'm a little full right now. I'm excited about that. I'm really excited to see Jensen Ackles do something out of Supernatural. I know at its peak, it was very popular, and the last season was extremely popular.
No spoilers.
I know you love it.
Yeah.
I don't think we need to worry about spoilers because I don't watch it. And I think this is to the mainstream, not just the Riverdale.
Sure, that it's niche.
Ezra Miller's cool, and the CW audience knows Ezra Miller, or not Ezra Miller, Grant Gustin.
Grant Gustin, yeah.
I think this is finally going to do that for Jensen Ackles. Of like, yeah, the nerds know he's the cool voice of the Red Hood, and we know him from Supernatural. But now we're going to see him in live action. Actually, what do you think?
You know what? It's funny because it's the same thing that's happening with Stephen Amell. Is these guys are strong actors. You know that companies have some kind of confidence in them because, like, my whole thing is like Jared Padalecki, right? He's Walker. It's a garbage show, horrible show, but him, his wife, his production company, they're making money. It's fun garbage TV for the wife and I to watch, but it's not, it's nothing great. And there's a reason why Viacom decided to put it on the CW and not on CBS. And
it's one of their weekend shows now. Am I correct? Like a Friday night or Saturday?
Yeah, it's a late week thing, and they've been doing it. But here's the other thing: is with Stephen Amell, we're talking about a Starz or Showtime show. Mm-hmm. And with Jensen Ackles, we're talking about Amazon Prime, one of the most popular shows. So, at the very least, even if it's not the best of the seasons, it's going to have good writing. It's going to have money behind it. It's not going to be cheap. You can see it in the costume. You're like, I know exactly what they're going for. And I think that's the most important for an image because, we're already hyped. And if you love the boys, you're hyped for the season. If you're in pop culture, you know who he is. And to see him go from Dean Winchester to him to Soldier Boy is what's really exciting. It's kind of like what happened with Jeffrey Dean Morgan, right?
Yep.
We've had him as Papa Winchester, and then we see him as Negan. Like, I just want to see the transformation. So I just wanted to get a hype level a little bit. Of course, it's one of our favorite shows, one of our favorite dudes, and shout out to him. I'm so excited to see where his career goes with that.
Now that real quick, since we're talking about images, and I think we're going to move on from it, what do you think of the Harrison Ford set photos? Like, is it weird to see Harrison Ford? Like, we love the Indiana Jones films. I don't hate Crystal Skull. I thought it was fine for like a film. I didn't think it totally everything. Obviously, it's getting a part 5. How do you feel like Harrison Ford is just so old right now? Like, I feel like everyone had said it, and it's almost like they avoided the obvious idea because everyone said it. But why did we not put Chris Pratt or something in this by now and like pass the torch? Even Shia LaBeouf could have came back, and we would have been fine with it. What do you think?
Yeah, I think some of it is our knowledge and like Harrison Ford. There was a time when Harrison Ford was Indiana Jones or Han Solo. Like. He was it. Now he's just Harrison Ford. And I don't mean that in a bad thing. I'm like, he's 80 years old. Like, I see 80-year-old Harrison Ford. I don't see Han Solo anymore. I see the old man that was that. And God bless him. I hope him and Spielberg are making a bunch of money. I hope that he's doing this to kill off his character. Yeah, you're right. If we live in a cynical, capitalistic world where, just put Chris Pratt in it and let's keep it going. The real thing is it a good movie? Look, I think we all made exceptions when we watched Robert De Niro throw really bad old man punches. So, like, you can do something for it, but we'll see. I guess I'm just excited that an Indiana Jones movie is coming out. But let's just pray that Harrison Ford stays healthy, and then we have him for a long time. I just don't need him in movie screens anymore. But we do have one thing to argue about. We both love Harrison Ford. One thing we both aren't loving at the same time. I'm only going to spend a few seconds on this because we are up against the clock and we got predictions to make because the WWE and NXT are going to be in our house, not my house, your house.
Your house.
Cubs and White Sox City Connect jerseys. For the most part, the Cubs are getting raked through the coals. For the most part, the White Sox are being praised. You really like how these Cubs Wrigleyville jerseys came out.
What's the color?
They look like the Seattle Mariners. All right, so here's my theory. First of all,
what's wrong with Seattle Mariners? Ken Griffey Jr. jersey back in the day.
I don't live in Seattle and I don't cheer for the Mariners.
Chicago.
Yeah, it says Wrigleyville. First of all, it doesn't even say Chicago. Look, this is what they should have done. No. This is what they should have done. They should have, if you were going to do Wrigleyville, if you were going to incorporate that, then you should have done something with like the marquee color design or the ivy color design. Like, something that has something to do with your team. Mm-hmm. And then with the White Sox, like, we make fun of them for the Megalomart look for it and the FUBU vibe, but I think it looks dope. It represents how cool this team is. I think white pinstripes on black looks really nice. I think Chicago baseball has dope jerseys to begin with. I have not really liked these City Connection jerseys. Like, I know the Red Sox one looks like the Boston Marathon design, but since when are the Red Sox yellow and blue? It's like, you still got to incorporate your normal colors, I think. Am I crazy? I think the NBA, you could get away with it. I don't know about baseball when it's such a regional traditional sport.
Jersey sell money. Jersey sell, man. Jersey sell money game.
No, you're right. You're right. 100%. I think their hats are their new ones.
sports teams have alternate jerseys, Mike. It's to sell jerseys.
Oh, yeah, I know. And I think it's great. I think for basketball, it's one of the cool things that basketball gets to do is that the Phoenix Suns have 8 different jerseys. The Lakers have 9 different jerseys. Yeah, it's really dope. Shout out to Phoenix. I have them on a bet on a DraftKings card. So let's hope that plays out.
So good.
Just want to talk about that for a second. All right, we'll keep the arguments going. Are you ready for some predictions?
Oh, do we have to? Monday Night Raw is the worst. I know we talk a lot of smack about AEW, and SmackDown's great. And I personally am not as low on AEW as Mike is, because I do enjoy a good AEW, Friday night.
I got AEW merch.
Exactly.
So, I'm into AEW.
And Raw is almost unwatchable these days.
No, Raw is unwatchable. I mean, SmackDown has the best wrestler on the planet right now. So that helps. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But we are going to be doing a new thing, by the way. I'm breaking this to the good brother right now. I went on eBay because your boy ain't got all the money unless you go to patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves. We will be having an official wrestling prediction Good Brothers Championship belt. And
thank God.
And this will be going to the winner of all our prediction shows. Now, we haven't decided if it's going to be a total of the month. So if it's a month where AEW, New Japan, and WWE all have shows that we predict all of them, or if it's a big like Wrestle Kingdom, we're only going to do Wrestle Kingdom for New Japan. But that idea of should we combine them? Do we do a pay-per-view to pay-per-view, event to event? We will let you know. I think this month, and I think this is how it's going to be moving forward, we would do the combined points of NXT in your house and Hell in a Cell. So make sure you guys stay tuned. One of us will be the inaugural champion. With that, good brother, now it means something. Are you ready?
Let's go.
Raquel Gonzalez defends her NXT Women's Championship against Ember Moon. Who do you got?
Raquel Gonzalez. That's an easy one.
Yeah, I'll go Raquel too. So she's going to defend the title. Mercedes Martinez versus Xia Li.
Xia Li.
I agree. Xia Li. All right. So we're both chalking. We're both together. This is a fun one. Cameron Grimes versus LA Knight.
Cameron Grimes. I think we're going to finally get that connection between him and the $1 Million Man.
I'm going LA Knight. There we go. Yeah. All right. So we got our first one. And finally, at least this is as of recording on Tuesday, June 8th, 2021 in the beautiful city of Chicago. You're listening to the Good Brothers here on Mercado Airwaves. Alex Mercado and Mike Mercado for the NXT Championship in a fatal 5-way. Karrion Kross defends the championship against Kyle O'Reilly, Adam Cole, Johnny Gargano, and Pete Dunne.
I'm going to say Karrion Kross because I feel like that's the obvious thing, and we haven't seen the opponent that's going to take him down. I think that might be a new signing of sorts or just bringing back a character. Do you think they're going to bring Karrion Kross up maybe, and this is how we get the title off of him finally?
It could be one of the two.
And, we have a draft in 2 months, 3 months or something they announced?
So, yeah, in September, I think we're going to have the draft.
No, he'll still hold the title a little longer. Yeah, Karrion Kross.
All right, so we both agree. Yeah, we both agree Karrion Kross, and I think we both agree, though, that Adam Cole, Karrion Kross, and Finn Balor are all going to go up sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I do believe so. I think we're setting it up for more of a Pete Dunne / Kyle O'Reilly or Escobar even.
Okay, but so with that, Kyle O'Reilly, I think, is the guy in weight. I think that's the next champion.
Yeah, I think he has a better look, and he's just a little ahead of Pete Dunne.
So when do they let him get a win over Karrion, or do they if Kyle's gonna win this, does he beat Karrion straight up, or is it in a match like this? Because if it's in a match like this, you can almost get away with it. But is Kyle O'Reilly gonna beat him 1-on-1?
I probably not. I would say you have to do it in a triple threat form. I don't think it's this match coming up. I don't think they're gonna move Karrion Kross up that fast. But I do believe it's going to have to be like that because I think you're going to have to keep Karrion Kross strong with his character. Like, you need to keep him winning consistently. I don't think he has the luxury of a Keith Lee where he could lose a few in NXT, come up hot, and then Keith Lee's a different story of what, we'll find out one day what happened, why he's been gone so long. But at least as he was coming up, the setup was he wasn't undefeated in NXT, but he's still a powerhouse. Karrion Kross almost feels like, no, you really do need him to win out. And if he drops the title, it's to purely drop the title, triple threat.
So what do you think about, we've made our predictions. We know what match it's going to be to determine at least who's got the wins heading into Hell in a Cell for the first ever championship belt. Good brother, though, what are your thoughts as we wrap up this episode? Your final thoughts on what happened with all the recent releases in the WWE?
Everyone's theory is that they're going to sell. And I feel like, well, people think that because that's what companies do when they're about to sell. They liquidate, they start, they want to show a bigger profit. And when people say, well, they have enough profit, I'm like, is there ever enough profit?
No.
And especially if you do consider selling, then there is definitely not enough profit. And yeah, they have a lot of money. They have a lot of deals in place from different countries, from different brands, different studios. And, they're a big deal on the Peacock network. And now they have their A&E documentaries. So do you think they're selling?
I mean, I think if they're ever going to sell, it's now. You're never going to be worth more money now. You sold the XFL. You're consolidating all these different departments. You're getting rid of digital marketing. You haven't seen a lot of WWE films. Like, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen now. The real question is who they sell it to, how much they sell it for. And you and I, covering movies, we know that these deals take a long time. And on top of it, there's other deals. Fox has exclusive rights to SmackDown. Yep. So it's going to take a few years for that to be done, for that to be able to move over. I think if there's anybody who's going to buy it, it's NBC Universal, because they already have their hands mostly in the cookie jar compared to like a Fox, which is Disney. Although I guess that's proper Fox. So right, exactly. And they're on the main channel. And I think Fox proper over air is still owned by Fox.
That's have left is the broadcast.
The broadcast, the news station, and I think FS1 are the only ones they own. So, it's interesting. I think if they're going to sell, they're going to sell. You and I have been wrestling fans forever. A lot of wrestling fans have been fans forever. It's hard to imagine the WWE not owned by a McMahon or somebody in that family, but things change. The Disney family doesn't own the Disney Corporation.
No.
So, things like this happen all the time.
Yeah. They don't own that.
So, I don't know. It'll be interesting. It'll be something we keep our eyes on, but read between the leaves and you'll start seeing it. Read between the lines. Yeah. With that, good brother, I'm going to let you go. You have your freedom for this week. Thank you so much for making us a part of your day. Thank you, each and every one of you, for joining us on this edition of The Good Brothers. Follow The Good Brother on Twitter at Mercado21Alex and on Instagram at Mercado2121. If you're local here in Chicago and you have somebody who's into the cheer world, who's a stud athlete, make sure you follow us on the social. Good Brother might have something for you every once in a while. It's worth it. So check them out at Mercado21Alex and on Instagram, Mercado2121. Follow the show on Twitter at Good Brothers Pod. I'm on Twitter at Mike M Media, Instagram, Mike Mercado Media, patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves, teespring.com/Mercado Airwaves. The video version of the podcast is on youtube.com/Mercado Airwaves Network and on Facebook, facebook.com/Mercado Airwaves. And keep up to date with all our other podcasts. Sports from the Couch, the Two Nerds of a Feather podcast, our sister station, the Gone Missing podcast, of course, the Good Brothers. And even though it's in slumber, Murder Mysteries and More is right around the corner. On Twitter at Mercado Airwaves. For the one, for the only, the Good Brother himself, one half of the tag team champions and 2/3 of your trios champion, Alex Mercado. I'm Mike Mercado. We will see you next time here on the Good Brothers on the Mercado Airwaves
Network.